This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
It's July 1st, and while many hope the worst of the coronavirus pandemic would be behind us by now, that is not the case. And parts of Indiana's Back on Track plan are being delayed for the first time. Good evening to you at 11 o'clock. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starrentino. Today, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb announced the Hoosier State will not advance to Stage 5 on Saturday as originally scheduled. RTV6's Cameron Riddle explains why.
Indiana is largely holding steady. That's a good thing. But having said that, we have seen somewhat of an uptick in our daily positivity rate.
Both Governor Eric Holcomb and State Health Commissioner Dr. Box say they are not blind to the increasing number of coronavirus cases popping up across the country and right here in Indiana. Because of that, the state is slowing plans to move into Stage 5 this weekend and instead will move forward slowly into Stage 4.5.
The volatility that we see even in some areas of our own state, but especially around the country and especially around our own borders, is of concern. And that's what's given us pause to push pause in some areas.
The change in plans means for the next 2 weeks, bars and nightclubs will be limited to 50% capacity and restaurants at 75%. Gatherings will be limited to 250 people. And with the calendar now turned to July, many school districts are set to resume in-person classes in less than 30 days. Holcomb's thoughts on going back to school are clear.
Yes, they still should plan to open and receive students in the facility for instruction. Coming up here, you said less than 30 days, so July, August time period. This is when the planning is occurring.
Dr. Box says there is science and data behind that decision.
We look at countries or societies that actually closed their schools in the beginning of all this pandemic and those that did not. And those that did close their schools did not see a decreased amount of cases nor an increased amount of an issue with their students or their young adults. So we really do feel very strongly that students can get back to school.
In Indianapolis, Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
Thank you, Cameron. And many other states are reversing reopening as COVID cases spike. That includes our neighbors to the north. Today, the governor of Michigan closed indoor bar service in parts of the state. Arizona's governor is ordering bars, gyms, movie theaters, and other businesses to shut down for a month. Florida, Texas, and California are taking similar steps.
After months of pressure from Call 6 Investigates, Indiana will publicly release specific information related to COVID-19 cases in nursing homes. That includes where people are dying and where outbreaks are happening. Families with loved ones in nursing homes have asked for that information. Since April, Call 6 has been asking the state to publish data broken down by facility, but the state continually refused, citing privacy concerns. So it came as a surprise today when leaders changed their stance.
Recently, both the largest associations that represent long-term care facilities and AARP, who advocates for the residents in these facilities, have expressed their support of providing facility-level information. As we have all learned, responding to this pandemic requires us to continually evaluate our approaches and, when appropriate, to change them. This is one of those times.
In May, Call 6 filed a formal complaint with the state's public access counselor about the lack of transparency on the issue. The Family and Social Services Chief Medical Officer says a dashboard of preliminary information should be made public around mid-July. 2,456 people in Indiana have died from COVID-19, according to the latest update from the State Department of Health. More than 489,000 people have been tested for the virus. Around 9% of those have tested positive.
Police say a deadly shooting on the northeast side of Indianapolis may be related to road rage. Officers were called to East 30th Street near Arlington Avenue around 8:30 tonight. They found a man with gunshot wounds. He died at the hospital. We will bring you updates as we learn new info. And we are following breaking news on the northeast side of Indianapolis, where at least one person has died in a fire. Crews were called to an apartment on Rimwood Lane near 86th Street and Hague Road just before 10 o'clock tonight. We are working to learn the circumstances surrounding this fire. Look for updates on Good Morning Indiana starting at 4:30.
A Catholic pastor in Carmel is suspended from public ministry tonight after writing an inflammatory message about demonstrators. We told you last night at 11, Father Theodore Rothrock referred to Black Lives Matter protesters as, quote, maggots and parasites in a message posted Sunday on the St. Elizabeth Seton Catholic Church website. That has since been deleted. The Lafayette in Indiana bishop announced the suspension today. He says other options for public ministry are being considered. Last night, Father Rothrock released a statement saying he did not intend to offend anyone. Talking about racism and racial inequality can be difficult. RTV6 and our partners at Radio 1 hope to help change that. Watch our virtual town hall, a conversation on race connecting Central Indiana at 7 p.m. tomorrow right here on RTV6 and on our digital platforms. It will also be simulcast on 3 Radio 1 stations.
And just days after 2 women filed an excessive force lawsuit against IMPD, their attorney is speaking publicly about the case. Police arrested Ivory Westfield and Rachel Harding on May 31st downtown after the city imposed a curfew related to protests. This was the scene shortly after video of the incident showed officers hitting Westfield with nightsticks and pepper balls. At a news conference today, attorney Terrence Kennard shared pictures of injuries that he says Westfield suffered during the arrest.
I submit to the community that if you've seen this video, would you accept law enforcement beating an unarmed citizen, a 21-year-old female, leaving such damage to her body that we as a community would accept that as a communal standard, that innocent men and women in our community could be summarily beaten with billy clubs?
The prosecutor declined to file charges against the women. They are seeking damages in their lawsuit. The Indianapolis Office of Corporation Counsel says it does not comment on pending litigation.
A reminder, using your cell phone behind the wheel while holding it is now illegal in Indiana. The state's hands-free driving law went into effect today. That means drivers will only be allowed to use cell phones with things like Bluetooth headsets or dashboard mounts. State police say they plan to help educate people in the coming months as they get used to the new law. Troopers will likely start writing tickets later this year. Tonight, we know more about a lawsuit that kept one state law from taking effect today. Panhandling legislation would have made it illegal to ask for money within 50 feet of a bank, ATM, restaurant, or any place where financial transactions happen, including parking garages and meters. The ACLU of Indiana sued on the grounds that the law targets First Amendment rights. A district court judge agreed. The ACLU's legal director says the law would have hurt those experiencing homelessness.
If we're serious about addressing our homeless problem, we're going to address things like housing. We're going to address things like addiction and mental health services. We're not going to pass these laws which do nothing but punish people.
The state could appeal the decision to a higher court, even taking it to the TRIA. The ACLU hopes that doesn't come to that.
Indiana Senator Mike Braun is among the latest lawmakers weighing in on reports that Russia paid Taliban fighters to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. ABC's Andrew Dimbert is following the fallout from Washington.
New details now in the growing Russia bounty scandal. A military official telling ABC News the information first reported by the New York Times about intelligence on an alleged Russian plot to pay the Taliban to kill American and coalition forces in Afghanistan came to light from special operations raids. The official says raids on Taliban strongholds last January uncovered large amounts of American cash. The Times now reporting officials intercepted electronic data showing large financial transfers from a bank account controlled by Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, and was sent to a Taliban-linked account. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, though, says Russian interference in the Middle Eastern nation is nothing new.
The fact that the Russians are engaged in Afghanistan in a way that's adverse to the United States is nothing new.
Pompeo added that members of Congress were also aware, which seems to call into question White House claims the president was not informed. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany insisting the intel was never passed along to the president and then disputing the alleged intel altogether.
We always act in the best interest of our troops, but this is unverified still at this very moment.
Congressional leaders from both sides of the aisle were briefed on the allegations separately this week, some raising concerns about what they learned.
If it ends up being true, regardless of when the notification was given, I think this ought to be something that there is a strong reaction made against it.
Nothing in the briefing that we have just received led me to believe it is a hoax.
But the president, in his first on-camera remarks to Fox News Business, doubling down on his hoax claims.
From what I hear, and I hear it pretty good, the intelligence people many of them didn't believe it happened at all. I think it's a hoax.
Trump's likely opponent in the November election, Democrat Joe Biden, criticized the commander-in-chief for not taking action on the accusations.
It is a dereliction of duty if that's the case. And if he was briefed and nothing was done about this, that's a dereliction of duty.
And a growing number of U.S. service members' families say they, too, want the truth as to what the Trump administration knew and when. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
Closures and layoffs at Essential Indiana Hospital Network are raising questions because the organization received more than $200 million in COVID stimulus money. Next, Call 6 Investigates gets answers. Kevin.
Are you ready? We'll put together a string of 90-degree days. How many in a row and how many will be dry? That answer coming up.
Ashley Home Store. This is home. This is RTV6 News at 11. Working for you.
Hundreds of employees and patients are left in limbo as Community Health Network announces it will close 2 Kokomo facilities, an outpatient rehab clinic, and a specialty hospital. The decision comes as Call 6 Investigates found Community has received $218 million in federal stimulus grants and loans. Our Kara Kenny shows you why some wish the money had been used to save the facilities as Hoosier businesses and workers desperately try to rebound from the ongoing pandemic.
121 workers will be laid off as of August 30th because of Community Health Network's decision to close Community Howard Specialty Hospital and Replay Physical Therapy. Patients tell us COVID prompted Replay to only be open at times on Mondays and Fridays. Community Health Network's decision to close does not mention COVID. It says they made the call after a thorough evaluation of the needs of this community, the changing landscape of healthcare, and how to best align Community Howard Regional Health Services to sustainably meet those needs both now and in the future. The decision to close impacts families like William Hartman and his 16-month-old daughter, Kinsley.
Good job! So big!
She's getting help standing and walking at Replay, an outpatient rehab clinic that's been in Kokomo for 30 years.
We were kind of surprised that, where did this come from? Out of nowhere.
The closures come as the CARES Act and other programs provided $175 billion in relief funds to hospitals and other healthcare providers on the front lines of the coronavirus response. Call 6 Investigates did some checking and found Community Health Network received $85 million in grants and $133 million in federal loans, among the highest recipients of Indiana companies.
From what I thought, the federal stimulus money was to prevent employee loss.
Community Health Network hasn't responded to our questions about how they spent the stimulus money, but they did say the CARES Act funds can only be used for COVID-specific needs. The Department of Health and Human Services has strict guidelines in that regard. So we did some checking and found healthcare providers don't have to spend stimulus dollars on treating the virus. The grants can also be used to offset COVID-related revenue losses, like fewer outpatient visits. And the money can be used to cover payroll, rent, mortgage, and other expenses to keep a provider's doors open. Healthcare expert and law professor Seema Mohapatra agrees healthcare systems can use the grants to keep facilities open.
Employees be able to pay their vendors in terms of hospitals, be able to make their contracts with vendors and third parties. And so this money was really supposed to help support the industry at a time of emergency. So any lost revenues that are at all related to COVID. And so that could be the fact that you're not seeing as many patients, that you're not actually being able to do elective procedures, you're not able to have outpatient procedures.
Replay's patients are heartbroken. They'll have to get care somewhere else, and no employees are also in limbo. They wonder if millions of stimulus money could have made a difference. Kara Kenny, RTV6.
121 people will be laid off from the facilities, according to documents released this week. 85 at the specialty hospital and 36 at Replay Clinic. Community Health Network says, quote, current patients at both facilities will continue to receive the same level of high-quality, compassionate care. You can read their full statement in this story on the RTV6 app and on our website. And we reached out to the U.S. Congressman for Kokomo about the issue. Representative Jim Baer told us, quote, our office continues to monitor that the use of taxpayer funds are used accordingly to the CARES Act. If adjustments to the rules and guidelines are needed, our office will work with the administration to provide the necessary flexibility.
Now to the forecast here at 11. Storm Team 6 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory joining us now, tracking highs in the 90s, Kevin.
And not just for a day or 2 or 3, but it looks like at least 7 in a row. And if you count today, that makes it 8. So we've changed the pattern. Remember when we thought June was so dry? That late push, the last 5 days where we had almost 2.6 inches of rain, that helped us reach and exceed average rainfall for the month. All that's in the rearview mirror. Rain chances remain low over the next several days. I think we're dry probably until early next week. The rain chance does not go above 20% through the 4th of July weekend. Temperatures come up as those rain chances go down. Humidity levels will drop just slightly, but we'll take any victory that we can get. Dry, dry, dry. There your next 3 days. That slight chance for rain Sunday and Monday. Monday will be the peak temperature. I think we'll hit 94 or 95 just to start next week. But as you start thinking about planning for and daydreaming, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday forecast temperatures 93 both Saturday and Sunday, and you put the humidity in with the temperature, you go through a little formula, and you come up with a feel of about 97 degrees. So when you sweat on days where it's already humid, your body doesn't get the evaporational cooling that it normally would because the air doesn't want that moisture from your body. It slows evaporation is what I'm trying to say, and it makes you think it's warmer than it is. Decent amount of sunshine, but I do think we see some cumulus clouds build in the afternoon hours tomorrow. Friday temperatures set the stage for the weekend and Monday. 92 in Petersburg, 92 in Frankfurt. Metro temperatures warmer to 92. Our warmest temperature ahead is Monday, as I mentioned, 94. So we're just getting close to that. And we'll spend the weekend pretty consistently in the lower to middle 90s. That wind will be light, but it will be out of the northeast on Saturday. That will help a bit keep the humidity from surging, at least. I do think the humidity will climb as we get to Monday. Monday, 94 degrees. Chance for thunderstorms increases, but not until the middle of next week. Tomorrow, rain is not in the forecast. How about that? It'll be the first time we really haven't talked about bubbling up thunderstorms during the heat of the day. Friday, partly sunny, 92. Then that stretch from Saturday, the 4th of July, through Tuesday appears to be the warmest. Overnight low temperatures in the 70s as well. No relief at night and very warm during the day. That's your 7-day forecast into the 4th of July weekend.
It's just that easy.
This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
RTV6 is always striving to keep you informed in the best ways possible, and sometimes that means updating policies and procedures. As of today, we will be doing a better job of identifying people accused of crimes. Call 6 Chief Investigator Rafael Sanchez explains how.
We gotta take action. We gotta come together.
Protests demanding police reforms,
Black Lives Matter.
Racial justice, and economic equity have been peaceful. On occasion, there was tear gas and vandalism. This challenged news organizations like WRTV on how to cover the multiple arrests during the demonstrations and beyond.
We really have to balance, giving the public the information that they need with the potential harm that can be caused to the people who are affected by our coverage.
For years, WRTV, like many media outlets, has showed on television the mugshots provided by law enforcement after criminal arrests. But that practice in the age of social media, where information lives on forever, has led to unintended consequences, especially in cases where criminal charges could be dropped weeks or months later, impacting everything from someone being able to get a job to attending a child's field trip.
When somebody comes to us via email, phone calls, letters, and it always starts with, if you Google my name. And that's powerful. We get that. And particularly if we've only done that initial story and we have not followed that story to have that full update, it really made us, rethink, and it was worth consideration.
In 2018, WRTV decided it would only use the mugshots of people arrested who were criminally charged by a county prosecutor. But that was challenged in recent weeks. The recent protests and arrests from chaotic nights raised questions about the policy. In line with our policy, WRTV posted the mugshots on TV and online of the people, both black and white, male and female, who were criminally charged during the protests by the county prosecutor. But a key question yet again emerged. Would WRTV be following each and every case through the end of the process?
I can have 20 reasons to why we did it right and why we did the right thing. But at the end of the day, if what we're doing is contributing to a false narrative, then my 20 right reasons don't matter. They don't matter. And so being able to take a look at how we can still consistently, ethically, factually, journalistically report the news of the day, but not add in or add to racial stereotypes or false narratives, that's important for us to do.
WRTV has now decided to only use mugshots on a case-by-case situation. Discussions will determine, why is the mugshot necessary? What is the benefit of showing it? And is it a case we will follow through its resolution?
It's not censorship. All of this information that people want to know is public record. And so they can find it if they are interested in it and they want to find it. But we as journalists have a greater responsibility because we have such a large megaphone. So we need to be thinking about, what is the value of this news story? And I think that's really where all of our decisions have to come from.
And so we're doing our best to adjust our policies to make sure that we're not part of the problem as we continue to use our megaphone to lead people to the solution.
A moment in time when fairness and flexibility firmly meet the demands of a dynamic city confronting robust concerns. Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
Holidays started at holidayworld.com.
Tenderloin Tuesdays will continue in Hamilton County this year with a twist. Instead of restaurants offering discounts, this summer's campaign will focus on encouraging the community to support local restaurants. The Hamilton County Tourism Director says it has obviously been a difficult year for businesses, and the department wants to do everything possible to help. You can find a list of places on the Tenderloin Trail on our website at theindychannel.com. Kevin.
Tenderloin Thursday sounds pretty good as well. Temperature hits 90 during the afternoon hours tomorrow with a mixture of clouds and sunshine. Mark, you get the last word.
I do get the last word, and it'll be thanks for joining us, and we hope you have a great night. And by the way, Good Morning Indiana heads your way tomorrow morning at 4:30 a.m. Thanks for joining us here. Have a good night, everybody.